Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Choose to Challenge. I am LaWanna Bradford, and I'm so excited to have you here as we are wrapping up Women's History Month. Can you believe it? Well, today I have another special guest joining us on the platform, none other than Cornelia, aka Connie Brown, and we are here to have a very unique conversation as it relates to when love leads, changing the narrative. When love leads, changing the narrative. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about who this amazing woman is. Cornelia Brown is a serial entrepreneur. I mean, you name it, she does it, from real estate to helping empower women. She's an author. She is the renowned author of the book Black and White Makes Brown. She is also an author of children's books designed to help open up the lens of the young minds to accept themselves and also to accept others. She is passionate and an advocate and ally about what it means to bridge the divide, create connections and opportunities so we as humanity can grow stronger and better together. But it first starts with us understanding and accepting one another. And we're going to get into that in just a moment. And the next voice you will hear and the next person you will see will be none other than Cornelia Brown. How's it going, Connie?
It is going awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored and blessed, and I hope things are going great for you.
They are. I am coming at you live from Arizona, Sierra Vista, Arizona. I know you are in the Atlanta metro region, and so we're just making it happen, right?
We're making it happen. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I want you to just take a moment to tell the audience why bridging the divide and changing the narrative when it comes to just us embracing each other as human beings. Why is that so important? Where did that come from? Was that always a part of you, or did you grow into that?
So interesting. First of all, I want to let you know you keep freezing. So if I'm freezing, I can continue hearing your voice. So we're just going to work through that. But you know, that's a very interesting question because I grew up in a monoracial environment. So that it was not just having people from other cultures and other places and spaces and different skin colors. That's not how I grew up. I grew up in the mountains of Bavaria where, very secluded, even though it was a tourist area. But, so a fusion of cultures didn't really happen. And our Bavarian culture is such a strong culture that, that was life. However, God had a different plan. That's what I always tell people. And when I met my husband, I was not taught to be racist. So that was not anything that I, was taught to be. So I didn't see anything wrong with it. I was curious about my husband's culture, and just became a wonderful journey of learning. And the learning curve for me was just wow. That's all I can say. But in order to marry cross-culturally, or what people call, I believe there's one race, the human race, but people call us different races. So, okay, you have to learn each other's ways of growing up and living and embracing, like you said, embracing one another, not just tolerate people, Tolerating and accepting and embracing is two totally different things. Back to you.
Yes, it is. And we apologize. We are having a little bit of a connection. I heard earlier in your area there were some storms. I'm in the mountains, so we're gonna make this work.
Work
But
through
I
it.
thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so interesting, Connie, that that's how life evolves. We go through life, right? We have certain experiences, but the more we're exposed, then sometimes our mindset shifts, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's an awesome thing. You know, it is like when we come out what we call our comfort zones, however we have been taught and how we grew up, and we come out from those boxes and begin to experience one another. Guess what? We find more things that we have in common than we think. And then we can learn about the differences, them, enjoy them, and just have a wonderful, colorful world that we should love to live in.
Yeah, that's so true. I think, and I want to toss this to you, that the Brit or the divide, if you will, comes about from fear of the unknown, right? Fear of maybe even being rejected and not accepted.
Absolutely. And you know, fear, some people say that fear puts faith in a will. And so people get stuck in the box of fear. And again, what miss out on so much. That's what people don't realize. When you stay in your comfort zone, that comfort zone may squash some dreams that you have, some connections that you should have. And those connections look like what you thought they would look like, but they are amazing. So that's what people are doing. They're stifling their own being. And after all, you know, we originate all from the same place and space. We originate from that. You know, I serve you know, in church and God, and as far as I know, when I read a good book, I don't see different colored gods for different people. So we come from the same origins, but we, you know, life took us to different places and spaces. We ought to collaborate with one another. There's great strength in that.
Yes. You know, we're getting a lot of back feed. I'm going to just, I don't want to mute the mic, but let's just see how it does. But you're coming across. I'm hearing you, but it's a little choppy. We'll be right back. I'm going to take a little break, and we will get more into changing the narrative.
We will win, we will win in the end. We will win in the end. We can lose, we can lose. We can lose if we choose. We will win.
Okay, Connie, are you there? You are totally frozen on my end.
Yes, and so are you. So we are just frozen in place, but we can hear each other.
Well, hopefully our audience can hear us. I'm checking the feed, and we are clear. So I don't know. It may just be the way we're receiving it. We will see. Hopefully it's good. We apologize to our viewing audience and listening audience if this is distorted. If we find that it is, we will come back. It'll be a different title because we're going to break into why we're here today. Some of you may have seen Connie on this platform before. You may have seen her on my other show, Power of the Pit, because she has a very unique perspective when it comes to creating meaningful exchange that changes lives and influences the next generation. And one of the things that she is very, very passionate about is something called Loving Day. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Connie, to just give our audience a little history lesson on as to what is Loving Day. And again, we're not talking about Sweetheart Day or Sweetest Day. This is Loving Day. This is actually a landmark law that was enacted based upon the loving. So I will turn it over to you, Connie, and let's learn a little bit about history.
Well, it's so interesting that as I began my journey in the United States, I did not realize, first of all, when my husband and I got married, that there was still in the law books in the state of Alabama that black and white is not allowed to marry. Actually, my husband's home state and birth state refused to take it off until the year 2000. So I began to get really concerned, and I wanted to hear where this is coming from. Where are these laws coming from? And Lord and behold, I found a couple called Mr. and Mrs. Loving. Mr. and Mrs. Loving lived in Virginia, in Roanoke, Virginia, and Mrs. Loving was an African American Native Indian lady married to a Asian with Irish background, white man, and they got married, and they actually were arrested and charged with a felony and put into jail. And not only that, was allowed to come out faster, but she was left in jail. And the judge, when he went to court, said that if black and white, let's paraphrase here, you can read the court case yourself if you look it up. Said that if black and white were together, God would not have put them on different continents. Yeah, in order to be out of jail and prison, and they left, and they were so unhappy when they went to. And so when they came back, they got rearrested again.
Excuse me, Connie.
And Mrs. Loving.
Excuse me, yes. Connie, I'm going to ask if you might be able to, because it looks like you're on your cell phone, if you might be able to move somewhere else, because this is a real important history lesson about Mrs. Loving and the role that she played in the lives we're experiencing today. And it's very, very choppy.
Okay, I will, if you take me off, I will move into a different room and see if that makes a difference.
Sounds good. All right, we'll be back with Cornelia Brown. Again, our apologies. We really wanted to get this show to you live to talk about what is happening and how we can show up and how we can change the narrative no matter what is happening around us. And Mrs. Loving, as she was saying, she and her husband got married at a time when interracial marriage was deemed illegal. And they took their case all the way to the Supreme Court and won. And as a result of that, we have the marriage freedoms that we have today. And one of the things that I think that we can be mindful of is free isn't free, meaning it comes at a cost, it comes at a price. And individuals have to, I shouldn't say have to, we hope that they recognize the sacrifice that others have made so that we can experience the freedoms and liberties that we have. And here during Women's History Month, we thought that it was important not only to showcase Mrs. Loving and her story and her fight, which was obviously for her marriage, but it turned out to be for the rights of many, many people, but also now how this is translated into a different chapter of expression for Cornelia Brown, which we will get into in just a moment. And it looks like she is back, so we will see how this works now. Okay. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm sitting in the office now, right next to the router. Let's see if that makes a difference.
It makes a big difference.
Okay, all right.
So
So,
I gave them the history. I took us all the way up to the Supreme Court. And I
oh,
talked about that because of that fight, because of that stance, even though she was doing it to defend her family and her relationship, it has a ripple effect in how we acknowledge relationships in this country. So I'll toss it over to you.
absolutely. And what I love about this, first of all, this lady was a very, very shy lady. If you can hear her speak, if you look her up, you guys can Google it. And she was so unassuming, yet she made a difference. She spoke up, she spoke out, she wrote that letter, and it changed everything for her. It changed, so many different things. The sad thing that got me is that when, for example, in the state of Alabama, where we got married in the 2000s, that over 20% of people voted that we still should be going to jail. We still should be charged with, a felony. And I was so shocked about this. So I began my journey to speak out in behalf of all the multicultural, multiracial, whatever you call them, interracial, I call them all shapes and flavors families, and to speak out in their behalf and let people know, look, they need a support system. What happens so often, I heard it over and over and over, and I heard it myself, that people would tell us, if you guys have to get married, don't have any children, because they will not know who they are. What happens is that's what people that saying that are telling the children. People will oust their family members from their family, disown them, literally disown them because of that. So there's so many, again, if you call them interracial families, that have no support system. And then because of not having a support system, if their marriages fall apart, guess what people say? We told you so. This can never work. So I wanted to be their voice, and I wanted to tell them, we are here. We are your support system. If you have no one to undergird us, reach out to us. And I began to connect with people, and I connected with an organization that is actually called the Loving Day Organization. And they showed us how to have these celebrations every year, June 12th. That's what we celebrate. It's Loving Day. That in 1967 and June 12th, all the laws of the land, regardless if they want to take them off the books or not, they were rendered unenforceable. And that empowered me. I was like, okay, so even if they have this law on there, they can leave it on there, but it's unenforceable. Back to you.
Now that's pretty powerful. And like you said, June 12th, 1967. That's not even that's scary. Actually, it's 57 years ago that
It,
we are that and I want to just say this, when we look, sometimes we get very comfortable in where we are, and we think that things will always be, that nothing will ever change, right? And we've already seen in this country, Roe v. Wade, how that's an example that it was in law forever, right? And then there was a rollback. Now, again, this conversation isn't saying that there's going to be a rollback of interracial marriage, but the point is we have precedents that things have been on the books and rolled back. And so I want to ask you, for those who are defending whatever it is, whatever you stand for, why is your voice so important?
well, first of all, again, like I said, I wanted to be the voice for the interracial, all shades and flavor couples that may be nervous about speaking up themselves. Because let me tell you, now in 2025, people have withdrawn and don't want to draw attention to themselves because they are nervous of what will happen. Okay. So we every single year, this year it's going to be June 13th, okay, in a city called Lovejoy, Georgia. I'm going to have the event. And again, it is important that we undergird the people. They need a support system. And we need to have people like you that is allowing us to speak up and speak out to let people know you're not by yourself. We are here. We can help you to find resources if you have any issues. And if your family ousted you, and believe it or not, I just spoke to somebody a few weeks ago. The family disowned her. The family said, if that's what you're going to do, if you marry him, you are disowned. Well, let me tell you something. And I told them that it's very important that you then connect to people that can support you. Because marriage already in its own is a piece of work and it needs to be empowered, it needs to be embraced, and it needs to be supported. That's what we are here for. Back to you.
Yeah, I like what you said, and sometimes we don't, like you said, marriage has its own challenges, and when you have people who are against you just because of a different culture, a different background, or even a complexion, that's added stress on already a challenge because you as two individuals are getting to know each other and grow in unison, and you want to have that support. You want to have people rallying around and embracing and celebrating you. Now, I'd like to translate this to just our children and the work that you're doing with your books. And it's a similar message as Black and White Makes Brown, but it's for the young reader. Why was it so important for you to begin writing books for the younger audience?
Because our children are the mirror image of what goes on at home, what is being said, how people feel. So let me share with you that when people watch TV right now, whatever the adults are speaking back in their frustrations or what their belief systems are, the children absorbing that like a sponge. Then they go to school, and in school it is a multi shade and flavors environment. Then suddenly here come the altercations, here comes the bullying, here comes all of that stuff that is being taught by the adults. So what we want to do is my books, it begins, you know Whitney Houston's song, our children are our future. And
Right.
to teach them well and let them lead the way. And so what happens there when they read books where, for example, on one of the books it talks about people with accents, and I used a little frog, and that frog, actually, people didn't even realize it, that a frog in Germany makes a different sound than a frog in Korea, than a frog. So the frogs, were attempting to communicate with one another. And then the frogs that spoke one specific language began to bully the one with the accent. That's the story right there. The newest children book talks about the need of bone marrow for children that come from blended families, how specific that bone marrow has to be, and how few people are stepping forward to actually get swabbed and share what they have within them. And we share with people that and again, I'm considered white. So I'm part of the white community, but the white community has all the resources, but the blended community does not, because there's additional resources needed. So we are sharing with the children You're not by yourself. You may be different, but you have a support system. We're going to go out there and find people that may have that match, that specific match that you need. The newest book is not a children's book, but it's a culture fusion book, and it's called Edelweiss and Collard Greens. I hope
I love that.
it is short stories. I just wanted to put things in short stories, and it talks about different moments in multiracial environments where different things come up where people have absolutely no idea how to react to it and how actual funny it can be sometimes. I share stories from me and my husband, and boy, we have some stories to tell. So again, it is so it's a unique journey, but it is a fun journey. It's a good journey because love conquers all. Love conquers all, and love respects all colors. But guys, love sees no color. And you know what? If we only identify ourselves by color, I'm not just a color. You're not just a color. Even though your color is beautiful, but you are so much more than that. And that's what we need to get back to. The content of the human being, like Martin Luther King said, the content of the characters and what we have. Oh, I'm getting fired up. Let me give it back to you.
I love what you said about that. And this is choose the challenge. So I'm gonna push back a little bit. You're right. We are more than our complexion, right? We are more than our background. We are more than our ethnicity. But the world, as it is structured, that's the first thing they see. And unfortunately, that's how many people are judged. Even though people may have come from multi ethnic or racial backgrounds, depending on their outward appearance, right? They tend to have an affinity with how the world is responding to them.
Absolutely. And this is why I always tell people, again, love is colorblind, yet respects all colors. We respect it. But when they say that you are black and people call me white, they're not talking about the color. They're talking about what they think we are. And they're not respecting all that we are. They putting us in a box, and that box that tell us you need to stay in that box, that's the box that we put you in. And we are so much more than what people just see superficially. And you know what? When we all go to meet our maker, we all turn into the same gray dust, don't we? I don't know. I'm not an expert in that field, but let me tell you again what I mean by that. It's that mindset and what people put on us. Because again, when people say you are white, I want to know. So now you know how I am. I'm like, what kind of white do you think I am? Okay. So when you call me white, what was your experience with the white community? And are you putting me in that box? Because if you don't get to know me, Cornelia Connie Brown, the type of white that I am, you will find a colorful place in there, all kinds of things. Growing up in Bavaria, Germany, when I did my DNA, having all kinds of stuff in there from Hungary, from gypsies to all, and that explains why I'm always all over the place. But so many different things. And, we just so shallow. We don't get to meet the depth of the human being. That's all I want people to do. And then, the children, that's why I like to write the children's books. They need to know you are so much more than just your skin color. It's beautiful how God created you. That's not what I'm talking about. But you are so much more. And so is that other child, that new friend that you could meet, that you may shy away from because of whatever you heard at home.
I want to ask you your perspective on this, because you do deal with children, and in translating a very complex message so that children can not only understand, but in their own empowerment, shift their lens. Right now, we know there are a lot of things that are, I want to say, at risk or at stake, um, including some of our shows. And I'll use Sesame Street. Sesame Street has been around forever, it seems. And you have the diversity of cast, right? The diversity of human cast, the diversity of Muppets on the show. And it was designed to be a show that helps children to see themselves in one another, see that they're more similar than different, create a learning environment. And to think that now that is actually being questioned as being woke, it is concerning. A lot of people are wondering what's happening, where you, on the other hand, are saying this is good. Let's create this rich, vibrant, colorful dialogue of our children, of our communities. But then you have others that are saying, I don't know, I think it's a little too far. And I'm going to share something with you, and then I want to toss it back to you. I'm now on E360 TV, and that was a deliberate choice because I was previously on another network. And I was pulled aside and said, we love your programming, LaWanna, but we have to tell you, it's a little too diverse. We need you to change. And I said, what do you mean too diverse? What do you look, help me unpackage it, because I think I know where you're going, but I need you to tell me. And they were basically saying they didn't want people of different persuasions on the show. If I wasn't going to be solely committed to African Americans or people who appeared to be African Americans, then they didn't know if I was really the right fit for their platform. And this was 5 years ago. So I've now been with E360 TV for 5 years. And before I made that change, so this is now a business decision. In the business world, I was faced with this. I went to the CEO, I told him my situation, and I said, what are your views? Because if it was the same, I would keep looking. And he was telling me his goal for E360 TV was to be the most diverse streaming platform in the world. That was his vision. And I said, okay, walk me through that. What are you looking at? And he said he felt that if we want to hear the true human story, then we have to be willing to hear of all lived experiences. Because he said, from my lens, I'm not going to see things as you experience them, and vice versa. So you want to hear the male-female perspective, the different cultures and ethnicities perspective, the different racial perspectives. He said that helps us to create understanding and actually provides richer content. So that's my very recent experience where I thought I was on a really solid platform, and the network I'm on is still doing great. But for them to tell me, unless I changed, I was no longer welcomed, was very offensive. So I'll turn that over to you.
First of all, unbelievable. Let me tell everyone again, the good book, the Bible says there's safety in diversity of counsel. So diversity, whatever version you read it, it says get multiple people from different walks of life together, have them express themselves, and that's where you find the human truth. That's where you find God's truth with that diversity of counsel. And that unbelievable, I'm trying to be nice, that unbelievable thinking that wokeness is that being woke is some type of curse word is just, it's incredible to me. But okay, so let's see, if we all were to look alike, we all go back into our own corners. Okay, you go in your corner. Well, I can't go in my corner because my family is all shades and flavors. So we have to stay in the middle somewhere. But I come from a country where that type of thinking was tested. It killed millions and millions of people, not just the Jewish community. Let me tell you, the Gypsy community, take a look. This is what a lot of people, the disabled people, they're all eliminated, just to have one type of person, the Aryan nation. I had people in my family that did not fit that Aryan nation look, that Aryan nation, that were terrified for their lives. So people began just to live out their lives in basements, completely separated, not coming out. And even though that person, it starts with an H, look it up. And the book, that book, so many things that I'm hearing right now are so familiar. It's called Mein Kampf, that playbook that didn't work out. It did not work out. It will collapse because humanity is meant to be together, to be with one another, to embrace each other, to learn from each other. You cannot get segregated and all this stuff again. It has been dealt with already. But you know what? People need to now speak out. They need to speak up and speak out just like Mrs. Loving did. Whoever it is, you write to your congressman. The thing is that if we all go into our own places and spaces, and especially, let's say, if you're a Christian believer, what you gonna do when you get to heaven? Because the last time I read, in heaven, it's gonna be multicultural. It's going to be all nations coming together, from everywhere. So what humanity don't allow this to happen? It's been done before. Many people that should be here and their children should be here are not here. I'm convinced there are people that are dying now because the doctors and the nurses from back then that would have made the difference have been murdered and killed because they look different. What are people doing when they go into the hospital? If you had a heart attack or whatever goes on in your bodies, you end up in the emergency room. You're going to have a segregated one. It's too late for all of that because we have overcome and we will not go back. We will not go back. It may look temporarily a little bit scary, but we will not go back, and we will speak up and we will speak out. So let's stay all shades and flavors together because there is safety with us coming together and making a difference, and now more than ever before. And leave Sesame Street alone. That's the first time.
I know, leave Big Bird alone.
That's the first time I had a TV show where my children saw all kinds of people, all kinds of little puppets coming together. And they were just what it did for their little soul. I'm telling you, that was incredible. So, you know what? Again, I'm going to believe that what all those things that the forefathers have done to make that difference is not able to be erased. No way, no how.
I think, and I appreciate you sharing your perspective, and I know many of our viewing audience echo it, and some may be like, I don't think so. But at the end of the day, I think your message speaks for itself, and it's about walking in love. And if we're walking in love, then I can't walk in judgment. The two don't coexist.
Amen.
So it's either I judge or I love. But the choice is ours to make. And I just encourage everyone to choose love. It's less stressful, it's healthier, you'll live longer. But I want to get into now what you are doing, because again, you've been championing Loving Day and using it to just create awareness. But now you're taking it to another level. You and I are working on this documentary that takes the history of Loving Day and now puts it in smack into this modern world that we're in. Why was it so important for you to now take all of this work that you're doing and now create a documentary that's just not talking about the lovings, but the message of love in a modern context?
Love that, the message of love in a modern context. I love that. Well, first of all, because people, if they see history, they may think this is a thing of the past. And some of those antiquated ways of thinking do not exist anymore. And the reality is they do exist. And we need to hear people that live that life. We need to hear what they say. So we have people that's actually, again, whatever people call them, mixed, multiracial, my all shade and flavor children out there to share what they encountering, what, the good things that are taking place, but also the challenges that they have right now. Right now, because if we are suddenly having such an issue with diversity, where does the diverse family fit in? We're all, you may have a Black father, a white mother, mixed children. You may have an Asian, that has married a Native American, and then you have what do you want to do with those families? And so we want them to give them the platform to speak out and share what they have experienced. And again, what I want to do, I want to let them know we support to you. Speak up, speak out, and if somebody has an issue with it, we are here. We will go hand in hand with you and show people, don't be so frightened of multicultural love. It's not that scary because love conquers all.
Yes. And I think what you said is powerful because, again, even though we're dealing with a small segment of the population overall, the influence is mighty if we lean into the lessons of the multicultural family, right? Because it's not just complexion you're dealing with, but it's belief systems, it's tradition, it's culture, it's from food, it's everything. It's really understanding what all of this is because our backgrounds and experiences shape how we think. We may say no, it doesn't, but it really does influence us. I mean, even if you're not from a multicultural household, but you have lived among other cultures, the way you see life is very different. And I've shared with you my experience growing up in Italy, military father, world traveler. I don't see the world from a myopic lens. And this is my Black American experience is going to be different from someone else's, but it's still a Black American experience. It's just unique to me and everything that I've been exposed to.
That's so true. And this is why when people call me white, I always challenge them. I was like, what kind of white? What do you think I am? Because again, our experience, and I am a retired military wife. This is, there's something unique that happens in the military family most of the time. And some revert back to their old ways when they get back to their countries. But when you join the military, you are stripped of your identity, especially whoever the active duty person is. You're stripped of your identity. You become green and camouflage. Your hair gets shaven. You still have your skin color, but overall, you have to be able to go to war and trust the person next to you to protect you, no matter what they look like. So a lot of military families, there's a lot of culture and race mixing that goes on in military families just because we all are being put together in an environment and then have to figure out how to get along and how to embrace those cultural differences and how we grew up. And you know what, let me tell you something. You may you might look exactly like somebody else, but we all have been uniquely designed. If you don't allow yourself to be that unique design that you have been created to be, you're just a carbon copy. And this is what I always tell people. I don't want a world with a whole bunch of carbon copies. That looks like a strange little movie to me, like some kind of scary movie. Carbon copies running around. Everybody looks the same, thinks the same. Then there's no need for other human beings. We just need one, right? Because so that's not what people's thinking is. Again, you know, um, I just don't get it. I don't get it, and all I want to do is support those that have come out of those boxes and want to learn and embrace. And people need to allow people to learn. I am begging people, allow somebody to become a better person, allow someone to become better. That people gonna make mistakes, especially when if you have somebody that grew up in the country somewhere and been let's just say I had a young lady. She grew up in the white community, in the country somewhere, never has literally spoken to a black person. And I have a group of entrepreneur group called the Red Rose Congress, and one of the things I always made sure everything has to be diverse. That's my mission in the earth. And she was terrified. And then we brought people together and the clashes that happened. And I, as their leader, was attacked many times. But I would bring the parties together and say, you have to allow each other to become a better person. So mistakes are going to be made, but you need to talk. You need to come together and talk to one another and work through it. That's the only way we're going to solve issues like this. Just my
And
take.
that's beautifully said. So I'm going to challenge you. Some people are like, I don't need that. I am a good person. I'm a great person. I'm a person of faith. I take care of my community. But I don't have to be a part of this melting pot that you're prescribing. I'm okay as I am. We've been okay for generations and generations. Why is this so important?
Okay, so especially in the faith community you're talking about. I remember when Black and White Mixed Brown came out, and let me tell you, my book was so attacked from so many people. The ugliest things came against that book that some websites took it down because it was so attacked. I had the hardest time to, once, when a book get older, the sales go down and all of that, to get people brave enough to continue that message. But let me tell you, I remember sitting in Books A Million in McDonough, Georgia, okay, and with Black and White Mixed Brown. And I had a pastor come in, and he didn't realize what the book was all about. Okay, so he came over and we began to talk, and he looked like me, like that, and we began to have a conversation. And he said, "Tell me what this book is about." And I was like, "Okay, it is about racial diversity. It's about people coming together." The eyes got bigger and bigger. And I was like, I would love to come to your church and talk to people about embracing one another. Just like the Bible says, just like Jesus challenged people all the time. I'm telling you, it's all throughout the Bible. It's everywhere. Jesus was always telling people, bring the Good Samaritan in, bring this person in, and they always were from different places and spaces. So he said, I love the concept of your book, but let me tell you, I can never have you speak at my church. They all would leave. I
Wow.
said, this is why you need to have me. And you as a pastor need to become brave enough to speak God's truth. So we know the challenges are out there. And no, a person is not okay if, especially in the faith community, if they are not going out and sharing whatever goodness is within them with all of humanity, with all, because again, the good book said, go to all nations. Read it. I didn't say it. God said it. All nations. It didn't say some nations. And it surely never said go only to white people or only go to black people or only go to Asian people. It's not in there. It's not. It's not. And so I can talk about this all day long. We are not well if we do not interact with one another. And like I said, when we make it to heaven, we don't have a problem because all nations will be there intermingling with one another. Back to you.
I love that. This has been amazing. I can't believe we're already out of time, Connie. We're gonna have you back because we have to talk about more about this upcoming documentary. I know the target is to have it ready before Loving Day in June. So I think it's important for us to bring you back here probably the first week in May just to talk about sort of the making of this documentary, and again setting that historical context in a modern setting to shift the narrative. So it's, again, I think, like, just listening to you now, I was just getting this epiphany that we can learn from this small segment of the population on how to do better and be better. Right?
Absolutely. Do better, be better. And if you think you're a great human being and you don't need any of that, be an even better, more compassionate human being. And again, no matter what, love has no color. It does not. But it loves and respects all color, all of humanity. That's what we need to do, to love each other. We need to respect each other. We need to honor each other. We need to be interested and curious and allow each other to ask each other questions. I am always open for people to ask me questions. And you know what? They will grow. That's where human growth comes in, when we engage with one another.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Connie, for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here from Cornelia Brown, very passionate advocate about building cohesive, strong relationships so that we can have a better tomorrow, that we can empower our children to be better because they know better, because we are actually walking the talk and not just paying this diversity and expression lip service, but we're truly being the people who we say that we want to be. And we will see you next week for another edition of Choose to Challenge. Thanks again, Connie.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Are you ready to defy gravity and challenge the impossible? Meet LaWanna Bradford, the visionary leader behind Choose to Challenge on E360 TV. Now in its 5th season, this groundbreaking show shines a spotlight on voices of change from across the globe. Born during the pandemic, Choose to Challenge becomes a platform for transformation where no topic is off limits. Every episode highlights individuals breaking barriers, rewriting narratives, and making an impact. Ready to share your story and inspire change? Call 404-618-2824 to become a guest. This is your moment to rise. Tune in now at e360tv.com. Your voice matters. Let's change the world together.